Hello and welcome to Springboard Your Biz TV. My name is Evan Sanchez of Springboard Consulting and Springboard Your Biz. Today, I'm happy to introduce you to another colleague, coach, consultant extraordinaire by the name of Paul Luibel. He's the president of Agular Systems, and I get the honor and privilege to talk to him and bring him to you, wherever you may be today, and talk about digital transformation. He's our go-to. He's the knowledge source. He's the man when it comes to digital transformations. And there is not a company out there today that doesn't need to be thinking about digital transformation. So Paul, thank you so much for being a part of Springboard Your Biz TV today. And I also want to just say that I consider you a personal friend and how cool it is to have a personal friend on the show today. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for making me feel welcome. It's a pleasure to be here, and certainly a lot of serious topics to go through and a lot of transformations to yield shareholder and personal value for our audience.
Yeah, so there you go. The guy is not only a IT subject matter expert developer, but he's also got the skills of a CFO. And that's something that I don't have coming from the sales side. But that's why I partner with great people that can complement me and bring to the table what I don't have. So what's the difference between laying concrete and posting a satellite?
The concrete idea comes from Thomas Davenport at Harvard and the University of Texas. Tom had consulted a lot of clients building ERP systems. And there was a lot of drive to unify data within an enterprise. And that's what the enterprise resource management planning applications did. It was an evolution. It was an important evolution. But what many companies discovered is they froze their companies within that framework, that it came with a lot of baggage, that you lost agility when you put forth an enterprise framework and an enterprise implementation. What was the better answer? The better answer was actually to start smaller. Don't
Frankenstein.
Exactly.
When I work with small businesses, I start with Frankenstein. You got this one, this one, this one, this one. How do we put it all together and make the perfect monster?
That's right. That's right. In this case, we are hearing about trends in digitization. We're hearing about trends in enterprise agility, the ability to respond to the market needs and yet still have a data backbone where we can use data to respond to the customer. So let's rethink this whole enterprise data model and enterprise implementation. What we should be thinking is to do it on a small scale. Let's think more of the architecture of something like a honeycomb, where we perfect a particular instance of our enterprise, a functional area, a project area, something we're very familiar with. Let's apply the disciplines of agility and digitization together in a smaller scale. Let's grow. Let's be coached, let's understand that, and let's transfer that knowledge to the leadership inside the enterprise. Once they have a win in one cell of the honeycomb, then you can apply it again and again and again. And the result longitudinally is that you end up with an enterprise system the better way.
Yeah, because that is not the way your traditional Salesforce, ServiceNow, what have you, major ERP will tell you. They'll tell you Salesforce, for instance, entered into the sales function and they said, hey, by the way, sales touches every end of the business. So now we're going to sell you this enterprise system. However, within that enterprise system, there was always a strength and then there was a weakness. And you couldn't always get the economic value out of the enterprise implementation that somehow just continued to go on and on and on and on. They did the whole land and expand thing, right?
That's right. So their investors and their economic agenda portrays a licensing revenue that starts at a certain scope and then expands to a scope under their terms. Now, they'll have marketplaces.
Yeah, because once you've landed it and paid the big implementation fee, you don't want to stop.
That's right. And they'll have a marketplace with other collateral or other extensions of their platform. And they'll encourage their clients to use the additional marketplace to add on or to bolt on or to expand. But that doesn't help the customer understand. That doesn't breed in coaching that needs to be a part of every information technology implementation. So let's rethink that. Before we start buying software, before we start using software, let's go backwards and think about a better way to inform ourselves as to how to buy software or to how to procure it, or ultimately, as I'm professing today, is to put together a different, smaller architecture that rounds out into a nice big honeycomb by putting the cells together.
You know, I love that because one of the things that I've always heard is that we typically inside organizations, let's take Microsoft Office Suite. Most companies only use 10 to 20% of the capability inside of a Microsoft Office Suite. Same thing goes with a Salesforce. Same thing goes with a ServiceNow. We only work with what we need each day, but if we don't really know of the next level of where we're going, we don't know to seek out that information. So if we're talking about coaching, coaching supports capability development as well as adoption, which means that I've got to identify where we're going and the capabilities that we don't have today,
right?
But what we need to support in the future, whether that be for people, process, technology.
Right.
That's the digital transformation key, right? I've got to be able to fill those gaps so that we can do it better, faster, cheaper. And now you have AI and chatbots and all these things that have hit in 2023. What are you doing to respond to those types of things?
Right. Well, again, we rethink it.
Yeah.
We put the client in a position to draft really what is going on and what the strategic and tactical imperatives are in the work group, in the department, in the function, in the alliance. So we need to continue to rethink and reframe what we're doing and what information we need to accomplish our objectives. Just start with those two simple principles. What are we doing? And what information do we need? Do not go out to vendors and look at vendors to answer those two questions. Those two questions should be answered internally. Then you can explore vendor solutions that might map to what those two questions have answered for you. That framework, that understanding creates the ability to then procure the information systems you need. Do not let the vendors lead. You need to grab an understanding. You need to be coached. You need to see these strategic and tactical imperatives. And then you need to inform your coaches as to what your business is evolving to. They can then elevate you. Now you're in a position to make informed consent to a vendor that's going to build the solutions for you. And again, as a practical, agile way, take that methodology and start small and focused.
So as you can see, that's what Agular Systems actually does on a day-to-day basis. And I can back this up from my own management consulting experience with Kepner Trago. One of the things that we used to say was you want to make sure that you have your process sound and then choose a system that most aligns with the business process that you've designed that is right. You don't want to align your business process to the system that you have bought because that process may not be your competitive advantage.
That's right.
Or it could be wrong, and then you automate something and you make yourself really fast at doing the wrong thing.
That's right. Why I was going to add on to that insight is that You're going to be in a circumstance right now, today, where you currently have information systems. You purchase them, or they're being thrust on you by a vendor.
5 to 7 at least in most companies.
At least. And so you're already in the morass of responding to the way certain functions and features work from information systems that you either purchased, inherited, are legacy, or are part of a vendor's or a partner's system that you need to be onboarded so that you can cooperate in their business network. The same two principal rules are still in play. Step back, understand what you're doing, and understand the information that you need to accomplish your objectives. Those two simple rules are so misapplied so frequently, or they're being subverted by a vendor agenda to sell you what they have in their platform. So this is what's created the alliance with Springboard. Springboard, quote, gets it. They're actually coaching clients before they purchase software, after they purchase software, and they're telling them how, or coaching them on how to understand their environments and make these decision models and put the decision models in place. Then you do the vendor selection.
Yeah, because ultimately it comes down to strategy. And strategy is really just a system of putting together the priorities based upon your internal and external environments and making the right decisions that are going to allow you to grow your business and to compete. Combining that with your type of financial expertise, really compounds the value that you bring, because not only are you the software developer guru who can help automate these business processes and get better efficiencies and those types of things, but you can also show the economic value. So let me ask you to talk a little bit about how you help people identify what the next best implementation in this honeycomb or in this Frankenstein that you're trying to build into, the next best system for their company.
Well, let's go back to the first question: is what are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish?
What's your outcome?
What's your outcome? What you're trying to achieve? Outcome measurement is financial by its nature. Whether you're at a nonprofit, whether you're a municipal company, whether you're a private company, or perhaps you're a public company, we all have to deliver outcomes and value to the society. So for a financial perspective, it's all about value. It's about income over cost. In the nonprofit space, the value is about the outcome over the cost of donated or procured resources. So we're talking about value creation.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we go back to the first question. The first question could be rephrased: what value are you creating for your constituents, for your environment? That perspective to inform yourself of the value you create and set forth the metrics dictates somewhat of the answer that you're going to need for your information systems. Those information systems then have to be part of your resource equation. So you may have to make decisions that optimize that value equation. You may not be able to spend as much money on information systems, but you still have to do the realignments internally that your coaching would inform you to do. So you don't have to spend all your money on information systems. You need to be able to understand how to answer that first value question and then determine, do I buy more coaching? Do I buy more information systems?
Because it comes down to adoption.
Correct.
That's where the coaching piece comes in. That's where you have to actually think about, okay, well, what is the ROI, right? When we get asked that question, Springboard as a whole tries to look for a 5-to-1 ROI. If we're going to do a project, we want to be sure that our customers are going to get that 5-to-1 at least when we're talking about what we're going to do. Now, that at the same time, we have to coach a lot of times the C-suite or the leaders of the organization on the level of expectation. So I can release a new module or I can release a new thing, but it takes people time to learn something, and it takes people time to learn how to, uncross their arms this way and cross their arms this way and make it feel comfortable. What I know from working at Kepner Trago is that it takes at least 45 days for us to actually build that capability, even with coaching. Without coaching, without expert facilitation, it takes much longer. So when you add in the coaching, not only are you looking at 45 days for somebody to get comfortable, but then you're looking at another 45 days for people to actually build in consistency. And so that consistency issue, if you do everything right, it's 90 days.
Right. And it's a very keen observation to bundle the training and implementation with the information technology deployment. Incredibly important. And that's where the part of our value equation exists. You have to marry the two.
Absolutely.
Decoupling them won't make sense from a financial perspective, and it won't make sense from an outcome perspective. And then triply, it won't make sense from a design perspective. So this is where we start with our original question. What is it that you're trying to do? Are you as capable of doing what you're trying to do in the first place? Can you make an assessment of that? Then we'll look at additional coaching, or we'll look at information systems. But you must revert to that first perspective. Now, rarely, I see it 1 out of 100 times, where a company has actually factored in the training burden into the actual design of the information system.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually post facto.
Yeah.
It's usually,
oh crap,
I train.
Yeah.
And that portrays that they didn't ask the first question at all. You would want to do the coaching before you design the information system, knowing you have to do the deployment and coaching again for the training.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great insight for today's interview.
I agree. It's building the capacity to be able to implement and to basically get the economic value that you were planning on in the very beginning, because it all comes down to adoption. It all comes down to the culture, the overall people, process, technology. People like to throw around those terms, but when it really comes to implementation, it is very strategic, it is very intentional, and it takes experts along the way who can examine the economic value and the output that they're looking for. So, Paul, thank you so much for being on Springboard Your Biz TV. Thank you so much for being a partner in Springboard Your Biz and helping us with the digital transformation, helping you, our clients, being able to identify not only what is going to give you the best outcome, but is also going to be the best for you financially and economically. And again, Paul is another great example of the coaches that are available to you through Springboard Your Biz and Springboard Consulting. So again, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having us. Look forward to building a lot of value together.
Absolutely.